Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to a special edition of Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Top Transformation Talk Revolution. A shout out to my producer today, Jessica. I want to truly thank you and the entire Transformation Talk Revolution family for allowing me to share these special episodes for a very important topic on military mental health awareness. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for sharing the messages, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Today's episode is titled After the Unthinkable, Choosing Life, Love, and Legacy. And after losing her younger brother, John, to suicide, Kim Burditt Bartlett's world was irrevocably changed. Can't even say the words. In this heartfelt conversation, we're going to share how grief reshaped her understanding of love, identity, and what it means to live forward without letting go of those we've lost. She also introduces the Black Box Project that honors loss by transforming it into life-saving research and lasting legacy. But I want to tell you a bit more about Kim. As mentioned, in 2010, her younger brother, U.S. Marine Corps veteran John Hoffman, died by suicide, changing her life forever. Since then, Kim has devoted her career to supporting grieving families and advancing suicide prevention. She has spent over a decade creating trauma-informed programs, events, and resources for survivors, and today serves as Senior Manager of Family Engagement for the Black Box Project at Stop Soldier Suicide, a groundbreaking initiative using digital data to better understand and prevent suicide. She is a New England native with a tucked-away Boston accent. She brings warmth, honesty, and a humor to her work. She's also an online grief group facilitator, big dog enthusiast, and tattoo lover, just like me. While not an adrenaline junkie, she once jumped out of a plane at 14,000 feet and says she would do it again. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Kim.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Erica. This is such a privilege and a pleasure.
Well, I want to just really jump right in because during this first segment, we're going to discuss when the ground gives way. So first, just tell me, who was John and why do you want really listeners to know about him?
So John was my younger sibling, my only sibling, and he was almost 11 years younger than me. So as you may imagine, our childhood or me growing up, I mean, for a long time, I was an only child. And when he came along, I used to kind of joke, it felt like we were raised by two separate sets of parents, although we weren't. My mom was 38 when she had John, and she used to say they give babies to young people for a reason, because her stamina was completely different when she had my brother. And, it was just very, very different when he was a baby. They were at a different place in their life, right? But they had me to help. And John, he used to, when he was little, he used to call me Mama, which was, incredibly embarrassing to me in the supermarket, right, as a 12-year-old. But then, as he got older, he became, it was such a novelty in the family, right? It was just fun, and he's 5 and I'm going to the prom and, but as he got older, that age gap, believe it or not, started to seem like it was going to matter less and less, right? He was 27 when he died, and I really felt immediately, I felt like I was gypped, because I felt like we were just getting to the point where we were going to be, sort of adults together, right? Like I was already married and had two little kids at that point, but it just felt like, he was out of the Marines for 6 years, and it just felt like, we were going to start a different phase of our relationship. And I was really looking forward to that. So,
I can really relate to that because I have several siblings, and I'm the youngest, and my oldest is 20 years older than I am.
oh, wow.
And I have one that's 18, 15, 13, and 12 years older than I am, and then more in
Wow.
between there. But it's exactly like you said, from the opposite perspective, is that, I was like, oh, they're always trying to treat me like their kid and tell me what to do. And when am I going to be seen as not the baby? But now that I'm older, having an actual friendship with my siblings, and people would think, haven't you always had that? And it's like, no, not when I was younger, because we weren't in the same household. Even though we grew up in the same household, we didn't grow up in the same household. So
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
understand that, and
Yeah.
I can understand why you would feel like, wait a second, we were just getting to that fun part.
Yeah. Or we were
Yeah,
getting to, like I said, it was sort of that next phase in life, right?
yeah,
Like I expected, over the next few years, he would get married and he would maybe have kids, and my kids would have little baby cousins, and, and that would be just a different phase and also as my parents were aging, right? Like that, that my sibling would be there. I never imagined that I would sort of have to navigate like I would, my dad dying and then my mom dying, and navigating all of that, without the help of a sibling,
yeah.
just me. So,
Well, I
um,
guess that would lead me to my next question: is how did
yeah.
losing him change your sense of self and safety in the world?
Oh my gosh. I remember distinctly that day, the day that John died. I remember just, and like the words they're not weighty enough to kind of explain the feeling, but that day I felt everything changed today. Everything changed. And I had no idea how that would actually play out in my life. But it just, I remember thinking, like, if this could happen, because John's suicide was relatively out of the blue for us. His story was not one of years of mental health struggle or, multiple attempts that we know of, I should say, right? But it felt relatively just out of nowhere for us. And I remember thinking, we're a pretty normal family. Like, I mean, every family is a little dysfunctional, right? But like we're relatively normal. If this can happen, and this can happen to us, like I knew I was loved by my parents. My brother knew he was loved by his parents, and I know he loved us. And, I'm like, if this could happen to us, like just this sense of what else is not what I believed to be true, what else is not true in this world, and it's a very unsettling and very unsafe feeling. It's interesting. I had almost 11 years as an only child, and then had my brother for 27. So, I sort of maybe had a little bit of an identity of myself, not as a sister, and then a long time as a big sister. Always, and then the oldest, the only or the oldest in the family. Um, when John died, again, I was an adult already, and I very much felt that responsibility. I knew, what was coming, meaning eventually mom and dad are going to die. Eventually, I'm going to have to clean out this house that they've had since the early 70s, all on my own, all on, and that's exactly what played out. It was a lot. It was a lot. And so, you really, I I'm an expert in my own grief, right? Nobody else is, but I really, there was a lot of reflection around, like, okay, so what is the proper way for me to step up in this family? Like, do I need to try to fill my brother's role as well as my own? And how do I do that? How do I support my parents? I don't know how to grieve this myself, let alone how to support my parents as they are grieving their son. Incredibly disorienting, like I said, like if this could happen in our family, also, what else could happen? I became the worst case scenario girl, right? Someone doesn't pick up the phone immediately. I've gone to the catastrophic extreme, right? And I still do that a little bit. It'll be 16 years this April, in 2026. And I still a little bit, those in my life, my husband, my kids, they know, like, you need to check in with me. I tend to go there. because I know the worst can happen,
Well, and like you said, you're the expert in your grief, and yet I'm still newer to this side of things, and I'd like to think I'm the expert in my grief, but I still like, whoa, where did that come from, right? And you do lose a sense of self, because even though we shouldn't identify as I am, right, and not put labels on it, but we do. It's human, right? I am a mother. And when I lost my son to suicide, I was like, so does that mean I'm a mom anymore? Because he was my only one. It's like, what am I now?
Yeah.
Am I?
And how do I answer that question when someone asks me?
How many kids do you have? I had somebody ask me that just today. Somebody I haven't spoke with since like 2011. And they're like, how's your son? And I was like, how do I say he's gone without like making this person now feel bad? So now I've the roles automatically reversed because I didn't want this person to feel bad, right? So yeah, it's changes your sense of self and like you said, the safety in the world. We're almost time to go to our first break, but what is something about suicide loss, especially sibling loss, that people rarely talk about and you think that they should know?
Suicide loss, I think, comes with just so many complicating layers, right? So many things. And I'm not saying that it's worse than any other type of sudden or traumatic death. I don't know that to be true. I don't want to know that, I don't want to verify it. But, suicide loss just comes with extra things that we need to navigate, right? So many other questions, so many other things. Sibling loss, I think, is something that is unique. Every relationship has its unique, elements in terms of loss. But I was always so appreciative when people would say to me, how are your parents? And I knew that, they were concerned, but there was never the follow-up question of, and how are you? I was the one that was meant to hold up the family, be strong for your parents. And I was like, well, wait a minute, like, what about me? That's the constant, that's the consistent question that siblings will say. What about me? What about us? And there's a little bit of, there's some books out there, there's some support out there, but not tons for sibling loss. Just isn't. So your sibling gives you a reflection of who you are in your family, like who, where we kind of fall in that and whose role, what identity we play within that family. And when one of those siblings is gone, it shakes it all up, it changes everything.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about carrying love forward. Before we go, Kim, tell folks how they can connect with you.
So the best way, my email is, it's my name, part of my name. I was recently married, but it's kim.burditt, which is BURDITT at stopsoldiersuicide, all one word, long word, .org. That's my email. That's the best way to get in touch with me quickly.
Thank you so much. You're listening to a special episode of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you passionate about impacting social change or working towards anti-racism as a society? Are you willing to deconstruct your innermost thoughts, ideas, and beliefs about racism? Then Inflection Point Podcast, Cultivating Change from the Inside Out, is the show for you. Join Anita Russell, Mavis Bauman, and Gail Hunter in open, honest, and deliberate conversations every first and third Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, only on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat. I'm the host of the Dr. Pat Show, and I am the creator of the Transformation Network, doing what we do in the world of positive radio, informed, educated, positive media. Independent radio hosts and independent networks have been the face of positive messaging over the past decade. So all of us here have decided we're going to put together an independent network that is going to enable people to bring their positive message of hope, inspiration, and conscious action to the forefront. Help us create a future of amazing, uplifting stories that can be told so we can tell our children and they can tell their children of what hope and conscious action is all about.
I want to thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on transformationtalkradio.com.
Do you want to become a host? Start your own podcast to inspire, persuade, and influence others on what you're passionate about? At the Transformation Network, we can help make your talk radio dreams happen. Let's take your hopes, dreams, and passions and put them on air today. Email us at host@transformationtalkradio.com to learn more about becoming a host of your very own show.
Welcome back to the special edition of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Kim Burditt Bartlett. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Erica.
Well, during our first segment, we discussed the moment when the ground gave way. And during this segment, we're going to talk about carrying love forward. And at what point did you realize grief wasn't something to get over, right? But something to integrate?
I probably didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't a marked day on the calendar, although I wish it could be, right? Because I would love to be able to prescribe that to new grievers. You know, on this day, it's going to start to shift, right? But it was definitely after a year, because I remember thinking, if, you know, and logically, I know he's gone, right? But I distinctly remember after a year thinking, okay, you can come back now. Like, we did this, we did the first Christmas, we did the first Thanksgiving, we did the first birthday, we've done all that. You can come back, like, we're done. It was, you know, definitely after that I think it was a slow, you know, sort of osmosis process of like, I need to figure out how we as a family need to figure out how we're going to move forward with this. How, you know, are we going to allow this to completely define us? It will always, and still does, define us a little bit, you know, because I did start, you know, as a family, we decided early on, it was really my mom that kind of drove this, but that we will tell the truth about what happened. This doesn't define him. How he died doesn't define him. It's one piece of his story, right? And there was a whole bunch of other pieces before that, right? That, you know, that we love and we always will. So we decided as a family that that's what we would, you know, we would do. And we would tell his story wherever we could. We would volunteer, we would fundraise, you know, for some nonprofits that focus on suicide prevention. And that's what we did. You know, not to an exhaustive level, not to a level that it just consumed us, but, you know, we were open about it. And I really think being open and and because of that, connecting with peers. I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and my parents were too. And Massachusetts is pretty resource rich in support for suicide, well, prevention, but a good chunk of that budget is dedicated to postvention, which is caring for, you know, loss survivors. And we were able to tap into support pretty early, some, you know, peer support specific to suicide loss. That combined with like, we're going to tell this story and we are going to be open about it and we want to help this problem. That I think was incredibly helpful in our healing, and still continues, right? I mean, I, you know, still work in this field every day, and, you know, that helps, of course, with the healing as well, having meaning and purpose out of this loss. But I think that it supremely impacted the ways, you know, we got to see other people who were living with this loss and they were surviving. And that means that if they can survive it, then it must be survivable, right? We didn't know it at the time, but they were living, breathing examples of hope. These people that we met who were doing this. And so, we sort of decided, we didn't verbalize it this way back then, but, decided like, we're going to do this too. Doesn't mean that we don't love him. Doesn't mean that we won't forever grieve him, but we have to move forward. Our family is, more people than just one of us. And we really want to move forward and, speak a positive legacy for John.
Yeah. And I think that's important to continue to speak up, because that's how we stop the stigma, if we can be louder than that. Yep. And when we don't, then people do the whole hush hush, and we don't want that.
Right.
Tell me, how has your relationship with John and with yourself evolved since his death?
It's funny. John is more present in my daily life. You kind of can't see him. He's back there. He's blurred, but in the dark. He was very, very close with his nieces, my two daughters. And, he would help babysit them when I needed it. And, but he was becoming an adult, right? And I think it's probably normal. I don't have any other siblings, so I don't know, but it's probably normal, especially with a male and a female sibling. Like, we didn't talk every day. We didn't really have a reason to talk every day, right? But, but on holidays, they were always together. They were always, it was never a bad relationship, right? It just wasn't always super close, but now it's interesting. He's so present in my life, and I get to tell his story, which feels, I get to talk about him. He's just a part of my, almost daily, he's a part of my life. And that wasn't the case before, which is strange to think about, but, I love it. I feel like he's on this journey with me. And when I get to do really neat things, or have opportunities like jumping out of a plane, that was an organization that serves military families, I feel like I get to take him with me. Like I'm doing those things for both of us, which just adds an element of, I think, intimacy in our relationship, and, just makes it really fun for me, like you're coming with me. Like, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it with you because you didn't get to do these things. So I'm gonna go do it with you. I'm gonna go do it.
I love that. That is beautiful. And there's something I'm just learning, is that grief and joy can coexist. And what helped you allow that meaning or that joy back in without guilt? Because that's the part that I haven't always figured out right now, is that, I start getting like, oh, I wish he was here, and getting a little bit guilty about that. So what helped you to allow that back in without that guilt?
I would say two things. One, knowledge is power for me. Education feels empowering, and especially with suicide loss, it just feels so wildly out of your control, right? Because it was, I didn't pick this, you didn't pick this, right? We had no say. To get some of that empowerment back, to feel like I've got a little bit of a handle and a little bit of a control on things, right? If I controlled the world, things would be a whole lot different around here. Sadly, I do not. But the more I learned, the more I felt like I could control some of that. And that helped me understand that I had choice. I read, again, back in 2010, there wasn't a ton out there, but I read as much as I could about suicide loss. I read about sibling loss. I read about family dynamics. I did not have a social work degree back then, but, and I really wanted to just sponge up as much as I could to try to understand, like, what was going on for John, what might have been going on for him. I'll never really know, right? What might be coming down the road for my family, and how do I sort of prepare for that, or, prepare for the potential of it. I don't think it was prescriptive, but so, sort of arming myself with knowledge definitely helped. The other piece, I think, was, again, those peers, right? Seeing people. I had so many amazing examples and mentors in the volunteer work I did, and then in, the professional work that I was fortunate enough to be able to start doing, who were living with it, right? Who were out there doing the things, making truly a difference, caring for people, and also that didn't erase their grief. It didn't, they were able to do both in honor of their loved one. So I think it was, sort of a mix of all of those things, like understanding I didn't choose this. There's no way I can be responsible for it. So, learning that grief and regret are two different things, guilt and regret are two different things for me. Regret was, gosh, I I really wish I would have gotten to do this, and this with John. Guilt for me would have implied that I either did something wrong or omitted, didn't do something that I knew I should have, or, when you know better. And that was not my story with John. I regret it a lot because I didn't get to do a lot with him. But if I can move forward as sort of a legacy to him, that's a choice I do get to make, right? I do get to choose how to live my life and bring him with me along that way.
That's beautiful, and I'm glad that that's able, and I know that there's
but it took time
for me,
right?
Right.
And I would say, there were people who said to me, like, give yourself a lot of grace around this. You don't know how to do this, and this is a loss like nothing you've ever experienced before. Give yourself grace and time. Time, I don't believe that time heals all wounds, but time definitely changes things. And, give it time, give yourself time for those changes and those new perspectives and new learnings to impact this. And they truly did.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about From Loss to Legacy, the Black Box Project. But before we go, Kim, tell folks how they can connect with you.
The best way to get in touch with me would be via email, and my email address is, I will spell it out, it's kim.burditt@stopsoldiersuicide, all one word, .org.
Thank you so much. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to a special edition of Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of feeling exhausted as a parent? I would love to help you with a new vision for yourself that is focused on intentional wellness parenting. My name is Orly Cormier, and I have over 40 years experience with complex cancer patients. I offer consultations, coaching, and educational programs for parents who want to boost their health and reduce risk of disease, especially cancer. For more information, go to orlycormier.com.
Are you ready to listen to your soul? Discover the power of pausing and turning in on Our Soul Whisper with Kathy Belmont and Dr. Pat. This sacred show offers a safe space for self-discovery, healing, and soulful transformation. Let your inner voice rise, be heard, and gently guided into expression. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe now so you never miss the whisper meant just for you. Visit OurSoulWhisper.com.
Rethinking your purpose in life? Become a certified hypnotherapist and regressionist today. Bryn Blankenship is a renowned certified master hypnotherapist, international instructor, and author. In addition to her own show, Afterlife Teacher, Soul Lessons Bringing You Full Circle, Bryn is a popular radio show guest who speaks about her soul expression spiritual regression, her transformative method for finding and following your soul's guidance. For more information on her hypnoregression and afterlife regression certification programs, visit brynblankenship.com.
Welcome to Shanti Mission, a school for the soul. If you're seeking personal transformation, deeper spiritual awareness, sacred music, or the support of a welcoming community, Shanti Mission offers signature workshops and healing programs in a warm and inclusive space, designed for growth and connection. For more information and to access free resources, visit shantimission.org. Together, we can anchor peace.
We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit GetRootedRadio.com to listen to a replay of this special episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's GetRootedRadio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Kim Burditt Bartlett. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Erica.
So during the last segments, we've discussed when the ground gave way and carrying love forward. And during this segment, I'm excited for folks to hear about this. We're going to discuss From Loss to Legacy, the Black Box Project. So you were working with Stop Soldier Suicide, but how did your loss ultimately lead you to the Black Box Project through Stop Soldier Suicide?
Yeah, I'll share about that, and then I'll explain, kind of what the project is. But
Yes.
after John died, I had a very clear sense that I was going to do something with this being suicide. However, I did not know what the something was. I just knew I had to make space for it in my life. And I started volunteering first for a local nonprofit. And then I was able to work part-time for them. And it was in the suicide prevention world, but not too close. I didn't have to tell my own story. And through those experiences, I met someone who recruited me to work for a national nonprofit that cares for the families of our military's fallen. And I was able to specifically work with the suicide survivors. So, families who had lost their active duty service member or their veteran to suicide. And I was providing direct peer support. And then I was also able to start using my professional background that existed kind of before John died and before my kids were born, which was in marketing and graphic design and event management. So I was able to marry those two and plan events and curriculum for survivors of suicide loss. And it just held so much meaning and purpose for me. Talking about sort of that legacy of being able to care for those, who are experiencing the same pain that me and my family experienced, and not having the answers, right? Just knowing that, coming alongside them and listening and, providing support around all of the, the different complicators that suicide grief brings, not only honored my brother, but honored their people too, and if I was able to love on them. That work eventually led me to know some folks who were at Stop Soldier Suicide. And I was actually recruited to come over here to work specifically on this project because of the engagement with loss survivors. So the Black Box Project is it's truly an innovative project. It is, that we know of, the only one in the country that is doing this. But essentially, it's a data science research project aimed at informing the suicide prevention field in ways that it's never been informed before. However, my favorite part is the piece that families get to participate in. So if you think of this is the best way I've found to explain it. If you think of how, we know what a black box is in aviation, right? In aviation, we know that a black box tells us when there's an accident, what was happening, right? The minutes, the hours, the days, even weeks and months before that accident happened. In this context, the black box is people's digital devices, so cell phones, tablets, and laptops. And what we do is borrow those devices from families like ours who have lost a loved one to suicide. We borrow the devices that belonged to their loved one. We then essentially take a snapshot of the data that lives on that device. We do not connect them to the internet. We do not log into apps like banking apps or social media or anything like that. But what gets saved on those devices is far more than I ever knew before this project. So once that we kind of take a snapshot of that data, to preserve privacy, it immediately gets redacted in terms of anything that would indicate personal details. So it's depersonalized and de-identified. Then that data gets pooled with all of the other device data that we've collected thus far, and we're analyzing that pool of data, looking for behavioral trends and patterns, so that information can be used to build interventions. That the suicide prevention field, we are not keeping this under a barrel, by the way, right? We are sharing this with the field. We are, when you think about what our cell phones know about us, they're within 2 feet of us, 24/7, right? They can tell us so much. So we want to share this with the field so that we can build interventions that get to people before they are in crisis. So the beginning of this project, it's about 5 years old. I have been here, next month it'll be 3 years. The beginning of the project, we were working with just military and veteran families like us, Erica. But the beginning of 2025, we opened it up. So now we are earnestly seeking to borrow devices from any type of family, military, civilian, doesn't matter, any family that has experienced suicide loss. one of my favorite things about the project, the things that I think I'm most passionate about, honestly, is yes, it's a super innovative and I think going to be incredibly impactful to the suicide prevention field for sure. But I love that families get to choose to be involved in this because it provides so much meaning for us, right? Meaning and purpose, that if I can contribute to this groundbreaking project that's going to inform people better to create an intervention that is potentially going to save a life. There's so much meaning in that. There's so much purpose. And I think, this loss has always felt purposeless to me, right? Like, or there's no purpose that would ever be good enough. People say, everything happens for a reason. I don't know what the reason that would be good enough for this, and by the way, I'd give it all back in a heartbeat. But to be able to contribute to the field in such a way, I think just, that little bit of meaning and purpose for that family, it really can feel healing. It feels helpful. Like I'm, again, from that loss of control and that feeling of like, is the world safe? Is that, I get to choose and I get to contribute to something that is going to make a difference and impact and change things. So someone else doesn't have to experience what my family did.
And I haven't been part of this. I mean, I didn't even question. I mean, you didn't even have to give me the sales pitch right on it. It was like, what can I do? Because it is, and self-identified control freak. Well, I should say, yes, self-identified, but also told quite often, you don't have to control every little thing. But it does give you some sort of sense of control and sense of contribution, especially. I mean, and I'll make this an I statement, but I do believe that I've talked to a lot of people who thought the same thing: is what did I miss? What didn't I see? What did I not do? And so this gives you some control and part of the process, saying this is maybe how I can contribute and help somebody in the future. Not only the potential person who's on the verge of suicide, but a family member who then doesn't have to go through that loss. And for me, it was no question at all. Like, yes, here it is, please. And just, for folks listening, the folks at Stop Soldier Suicide, especially in the Black Box Project, are so respectful, so kind. They are doing this from a place of honoring the individuals and the families. And I would say, please reach out and get to know more about this and go to their website to see, because it is something, it is so interesting. And I know you recently had a white paper published on it, and that white paper was so fascinating. Yes, it was so great. And I think it's something that we can look at prevention, right? Not just awareness, and stopping the stigma and what happens afterwards, but it's how do we make it so maybe it doesn't happen? And that's what I think is so revolutionary about it.
It's so interesting because when you bring up, learning reading about the findings from the white paper that we released, I actually had a mom who had contributed her son's device, who loaned it to us, right? We don't keep them. I think I said that we borrow them, but I want to make sure that folks hear that.
Get them back. You get them back, folks.
We get them back, we promise. She, after reading the white paper, and, one of the very key findings in the white paper was that, there was sort of this internal persona based on your, what's private between you and your phone, and your external persona in digital behavior, right? Things that like you communicate through your phone, through the outside world, right? So however you can message out and, your email and all of that is, visible by the outside world. But the stuff that's between you and your phone, right? That's what we sort of coined the internal persona. The external persona was remaining, these are some of our findings, relatively stable for like even a year before death. While that internal persona showed some signs of being in, potential crisis, searching for resources, searching for things specific to suicide. And it's interesting because a mom called me and she said, can we talk about these findings? And I said, absolutely. And she said, it's very strange, but I feel relieved in a way, because what was going on internally, like he wasn't showing anyone. He wasn't showing anyone. So how could I have known How could I have known? And I'm, we have a great relationship. And I said, you know what, Mary, you're right. Like we don't have a crystal ball. We don't. And we can't ever really know 100% what's going on in someone else's mind, right? And and in their thought life, and we just don't. We only know what they tell us. And if this person was hiding it, they're hiding it, right? Like they were hiding. She said, I feel comforted a little bit and relieved by knowing that he wasn't hiding anything from me. He was hiding it from everybody. And in a strange way, she said, I feel relieved because I couldn't have known.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a little bit of a sense of closure for folks. And I would definitely, even if you're not ready now, you might be ready later. Take a look at the website and get a copy of the white paper, because it's fascinating. But we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish out the show with the topic of letting go and living forward. This is a special edition of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Erica Gifford Mills has written the book that is about to change your life. If you yearn to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully, and to finally let go of whatever no longer serves you, then Erica's book, The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go, is for you. Readers will learn about how their values affect every aspect of their lives, why self-care and self-love is a critical first step to stopping limiting beliefs and negative thoughts in their tracks. The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go teaches readers who are ready to unlearn unhealthy patterns, to set, communicate, and keep their boundaries, to live with passion on purpose, and to create goals with the intention of putting them into action. Once you pick up your own copy along with the companion workbook, you'll be one step closer to being fully equipped, empowered, and enlightened on your path to be yourself for yourself. If you're ready to plant powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go, visit GetRootedRadio.com.
Festa della Donna with Esther Graham honors all women far beyond a single day of celebration. Regardless of your race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion, Esther helps you rise to your full potential to live fully in God's plan and to do what you were divinely created to do. Festa della Donna offers programs that help you fulfill your dreams and desires. For more information and to get your free copy of the Festa della Donna Retreat Self-Care Guide, visit fdbwomen.com.
Want a speaker who can inspire your audience and keep them laughing and learning all in the same moment? I'm Erica Gummany, and that's exactly what I hope to do when blending personal stories, deeper spiritual insights, and practical wisdom with a whole lot of humor that keeps everyone engaged. My intention is to create safe, transformative spaces where real growth and connection happen. Book me to speak or facilitate something amazing at yourpivotalpoint.com.
Without Fear is a Chattanooga-based death doula practice helping individuals and families navigate end-of-life transitions with grace, courage, and compassion. Death doula Alexis provides emotional support, practical guidance, and space to explore life's deepest questions. Through grief support, workshops, and education, Without Fear is breaking the taboo around death and empowering people to embrace mortality as part of living fully. Visit withoutfeardoula.com to learn more and find a safe space for all things life, death, and the in-between.
There is more to life than simply surviving or even thriving. There's flourishing. High-performance and quantum success coach Beth Larson helps you calibrate and elevate your life. Beth specializes in working with women who want more from their life, more energy, joy, passion, connection, and more meaning. As your coach, she will help you get clear about your life, prioritize what's important, and become a master of your energy. Visit BethLarsonCoaching.com.
Welcome back to a special episode of Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching and speaking sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Kim Burditt Bartlett. I am going to get that name right one of these days. It's the bees that are just throwing me. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Erica. This is a pleasure.
Well, tell folks how they can connect with you, learn more about the Black Box Project, and how they can get involved.
Yeah, so to learn more about the Black Box Project, we have a website. It is www.bbxproject.org. Black Box Project, so BBX, that's our shorthand for it. bbxproject.org, and my email is a little bit longer, but that's a good, there's a contact us form on that website, but my email also is Kim, it's my name, KIM.BURDITT @stopsoldiersuicide.org. And, if someone is interested in learning more and about, learning about possibly participating and loaning us your loved one's devices, we know that is a very big ask. We fully understand what we're asking of you, and it's big. And, there's no rush. Our only ask is if you are considering it, schedule some time with me. We can do a Zoom, we can do a phone call, whatever is most comfortable, but, just to explore it. And I aim to be as transparent as possible. There's no question that's off limits. We want to make sure that you are informed and, feel good and feel satisfied. All of your questions or concerns are satisfied before you participate in this. I've had, you mentioned it, if you're not ready now, I've had families come back to me a year later after, our first conversation and say, you know what, we weren't ready then, but we're ready now. And we get it. We totally do. And we're here. So.
And please, from a participant, yes, she's saying it, but it's absolutely true. Their patience, their kindness, their thoughtfulness, and understanding what it is to turn something over. But remember, you get it back. They're not keeping it. And so definitely, please consider from one lost survivor to another out there. It is so worth it. So during the last segments, we've discussed when the ground gave way, from loss to legacy, the Black Box Project, and just kind of letting go and living forward is what we really want to talk about during this last segment. So what has grief taught you about what to let go of and what to hold on to?
I think, I know for me, grief has been an incredible educator, right? I think, it's a common, all of us, regardless of who we are, our relationships, the status of our relationships, we are all going to lose someone that we care about, right? It's a part of the human condition. Grief, we are a very grief avoidant society, unfortunately, but yet it happens to all of us, right? Grief has given me such a new perspective on things, and I know that this is connected to the work that I've been able to do, which has given me meaning in my grief, because it's called post-traumatic growth, right? It literally has a name, but it has to do with, for me, it can show up in people's lives in a lot of different ways, but for me, it has shown up as just it sounds so cliche, but just valuing life in a different way. Not in the life's too short, you better do it now, not that way, but truly valuing, the experiences I get to have, the people that I get to, to meet along the way, my family, things like that just hold so much more meaning and value in my life. I supremely value and gravitate towards authenticity, right? And have less and less and less patience. I don't know if this has to do with age too, but less and less patience for inauthenticity, right? Just when people are real and they're honest and they're willing to be vulnerable and funny and, it just, that's what I want in my life. I don't have patience for the BS. I just don't. And that has been a distinct change. I mean, since John died, and then my subsequent, when both of my parents subsequently died, that has just kind of continued. It has just taught me that, again, I just have such a deeper value and appreciation for certain things in my life, and really like cherish them more. You know what I mean? I think, there are people in my life now, and many of them that I met because my brother died, right? And that's not the power in that, the weight in that is not lost on me, but that are truly precious to me, that I say I love you so much freer now, and mean it, and truly mean it, that there are people in my life that I just, that are just absolutely, that, mean so very much. And I let them know, and we make time for each other. And, it's a different perspective, right? It's just, I think, really kind of valuing things in a different way. And I'm so grateful for that, right? That has been an incredible gift in this loss. Again, would I give it all back? Of course I would, right? Of course I would. I don't get to make that choice, right? I don't get to make that. So,
well, what would you want someone early in their grief to hear today?
I think, give yourself grace, give yourself space around, this is a new experience. Even if you're grieving someone who has died in the same way that someone else in your life has died, every experience is unique because every relationship is unique. And I think, like all our feelings, grief is meant to be felt, and it's hard. It's supposed to be painful because we only grieve those that we love. Loving someone is a privilege. And so by, sort of by connection, grieving them is, loving them enough to grieve them is also a privilege. Allowing yourself, kind of redefining your grief and reframing it that way as love, an expression of your love, can sort of change how you process it and how you navigate it. And I will always say, reach out to peer supports, because, they can share what's been helpful for them. Maybe it'll be helpful for you. It might not. It might be something you can tuck in your back pocket for 6 months from now. But the more tools that you can have to navigate this, I think the better. And, there's no, if you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting someone else, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. There really isn't. There's some maladaptive ways, I think, that we can cope with stressful things in our life, but, for the most part, grief it's an inside job. We have to do it. We have to kind of get through it. And being surrounded by tools and people who get it, has, for me, and for so many that I've been able to walk alongside, it's been the most helpful thing.
I want to pitch something. This goes to one of my last questions I'm going to ask you is, so on Saturday, July 18th, this coming July, I will be hosting the 2nd annual Mental Health Awareness and Suicide Prevention for Active Military and Veterans. It's in memory of my son, Connor, who was a United States Marine Corps sergeant. And it really brings together families, community members, wellness providers, veteran-focused organizations, and local businesses, all united in support of mental health, connection, and hope. And this year's event, once again, is going to benefit Stop Soldier Suicide, which the Black Box Project is part of. Truly, they're dedicated to preventing military and veteran suicide through the data-driven personalized support at no cost to those that they serve. And we are so honored to support their critical work again this year. So it's much more than a moment on a calendar. We'll get everybody the link. So if you want to come, please show up. It's in Newton Falls, Ohio, Saturday, July 18th from noon until 11 p.m. We're going to have performers. We're going to have information booths. We're going to have lots of fun activities to really bring the community together. That's one thing that brings me a lot of hope. So the last question, as we only have a couple minutes here left, but what gives you hope now? And if John was listening, what would you want him to know?
Oh gosh, what gives me hope? People like you, Erica, honestly, people who are, despite incredibly traumatic losses, who are still out there wanting to help others, wanting to make a difference, wanting to love on those impacted by this. That is incredibly hopeful to me. I don't know that we will ever get the suicide number in our world to zero. I don't know that to be true. I would wish that to be true, but I don't know that that can happen. But I know that, I mean, not to sound, not to really simplify it, but like love is the answer. And I think, caring for people who are struggling, caring for people before they get to that struggle point, and then caring for the people impacted by this, giving them the love and care and support to heal, which is a lifelong journey, I think is just incredibly, people are doing it. And it's just it's so inspiring to watch. I would want John to know, that nothing was worth him dying, right? None of this, again, nope. Like, still, I'd want you here, right? Selfishly, I'd want you here, period. However, I didn't get to make that choice. And I do get to honor him with my life. And it's a privilege, it's the privilege of my lifetime to do that, to get to tell his story. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful for that. So
thank you so much, Kim, for being on today's show. And I want to thank you all for tuning into the special edition of Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast and tune in the first and third Mondays of each month right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. As we close out today's episode, I want to remind you that you are worthy. If you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you and it is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance by text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text home 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through the crisis text line. Both are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are free. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.